Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
On the show with us today, all the way from beautiful sunny Jacksonville, Florida, where our guest says it's nice and warm and sunny, and I already hate this guy. Matt Wilson is joining us. He's going to talk about his new book, Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. Matt, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Bob.
Obviously, you're a working musician.
Yes.
What was the reason for writing this book? What motivated you to do it?
I landed the role of Billy Joel or the piano man in the Broadway show Moving Out. And this was many years ago. And I didn't really have training for that role. I was just a musician working like anybody else. And so I kind of had the tagline from barroom to Broadway, right? And that was a big jump for me. And so I had to learn a lot of performance techniques, focus techniques, a lot of skill techniques. There was a lot of things that I had to learn sort of on the fly to catch up just to maintain my position. And then from that, after I left the show, I moved back to Austin, which is kind of where my business is based, or it is based out of Austin, Texas. And I formed Matt Wilson Entertainment, and I ran that business somewhere, maybe I'm going to say maybe 8 or so years ago. I had this idea to put together a seminar on the performance and focus techniques that I learned, when I was elevated from the barroom to the Broadway, right? So I started making notes, and I put together a keynote presentation. I started the stuff, and then, but it just didn't get anywhere simply because I had other things to do that were more pressing. This was just kind of a side project. And then throughout time, though, there are different points in my life over the last 7 or 8 years where I would come back to that writing for that seminar. And then there was a moment there, maybe this is now 5 years ago, where I was at a crossroads, and in about a week's time, the muse, if you will, came knocking on the door, and I listened. And from that time is when I started writing down these hooks, these little statements, these little thoughts that you read in the book now. And I took those hooks and I combined it with what I'd already started many years before on the seminar. And so that's kind of the synthesis of the book.
I want to go back a little bit before we dig into the book. And of course, I want to talk a little bit about the seminar too and the success of that. But when you talk about getting the role of performing Billy Joel on Broadway, how did that come about? Was that something you were aspiring to do?
No, I never had aspirations for Broadway, but through just random opportunities and good luck, if you may want to call it, or whatever word you want to give to it, I developed a professional relationship with Crystal Taliaferro and a personal friendship with her. And she's in Billy Joel's band of many, many, many years at this point. And she produced some records for me. And we were working together. And then, Twyla Tharp, during the time, nothing to do with me, Twyla Tharp goes to Billy and say, look, I have an idea for a show with your music, and I want to put it on Broadway. And so then, that's where Moving Out started. And it already been on Broadway a couple of years. And then they decided they were going to do a national tour. And from my relationship with Crystal at the time, I learned that they were holding auditions. And so That's how I found out. And it seemed to be a perfect opportunity for me, I thought, and it turned out to be so. I auditioned and after a lot of hard work and such, I landed the role. When you talk about going on the road and being a touring musician and then going on the road as a Broadway act, is there a difference? Is there something that resembles each other, or are they two unique worlds? I was never one to hop in a van with the guys or gals and hit the road and do that thing. I mean, if we were touring in Texas, we would drive to the coast, or we'd go down to Houston and turn around and come back the next night or something like that. I never was touring like a lot of these road warriors do. So, but I've heard the stories, and I know people that have, and I know the conditions that we traveled in and under with moving out. And I'd have to say that it was different because we were taking planes and staying in nice hotels and that kind of thing. So, very fortunate, my experience in moving out from that aspect. Let's go ahead and move forward to the seminar. What was your purpose of putting that together? Was it something that inspired you because you yourself had been at seminars, or did you feel like you were filling a hole or a void at that point? I think more the latter there. I know that through my challenges with performance anxiety or not feeling the confidence or and then overcoming those things and being able to perform, I just knew that there were so many other people out there that struggled and are struggling with the same thing. And so with all my hard work, my thought was, man, if somebody could have passed along this information to me at an earlier time, I would have had an easier go at it. And so the seminar, which now is back on, by the way, I just did a trial run of it last week. So it's kind of interesting how it started, and it kind of then was put way to the back burner, and then the book came out, and now I'm back to it. The purpose is to reach those people that want and need to hear these tips that I think are valuable to having confident and focused performances. The seminar, you said, went on the back burner and the book came out. Was the seminar, was it an event that you attended physically, or was it online? And how does that compare now to what it was back then? It really was. I use the word seminar because I don't really have a better word for it. At the time, it was just, it was me organizing my thoughts and then putting it in a presentation form. But I never, if I showed it to anybody, I showed it to my business partners or managers, but I never did show it to anybody in the form of like, hey, I'm really trying this out. Again, as a creative, you know, I'm a songwriter, and then now I'm an author, and all these things. We're always writing something, creating something. So it was more just in the creative room at the time. And then the book came along, which we're going to dig into here, called Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. And of course, I love the explanation you gave in the bio that was sent to us. Hooks, obviously, it comes from a musical term. Yes. Is that something that just came to you naturally? Most songwriters know that in order to have the hit, you need the hook. And so is that what kind of was the genesis of all this? There's 80 hooks, and they're each little just statements, right? And the book is divided up into different chapters and different categories. But for example, hook number 37, and this would be in the category of, let me see here real quick. I'm doing this real time. There's the page right there. So I have a section called Identity and Expectations, Thoughts for the Professional and Personal You. And then hook 37 says, knowing that you have a choice can be more important than the choice you make. And so that's the hook. And you hope somebody kind of remembers that. They could stop there. They don't have to read any more about that hook if they don't want to. But then they can turn the page, and I give more of an explanation of why I wrote it and where I was coming from on that. I also write in the book, just overall, I say many have compared life to a song. If this is true, then these ideas I share with you are the hooks I've picked up along the way. And before that, I explained what a hook is from a musical term, which is the hook is the part of the song that you remember after you stop listening. Kind of becomes that earworm. Yes. Yeah. Sweet Caroline, right? We know that kind of thing. In the studio with us, Matt Wilson, who is the author of his new book, Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician.
This is Claire Ratliff from Laughing Penguin Publicity, and you're listening to the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives, whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
You're listening to the business side of music.
On the show with us today, Matt Wilson, who is talking about his new book, Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. When you talk about the 80 different life lessons from decades of experience, I think a lot of musicians, songwriters, well, you use the word creative, and I like that too, because I think it's a broader stroke of the brush and it covers more people. As a creative, these life lessons, whether we learn them in day-to-day relationships or we're dealing with professional industry issues, everybody seems to come across one of these life lessons almost on a daily basis, don't you think?
Absolutely. In all walks of life, too. I mean, this book is not, I mean, obviously it's geared toward musicians because a working musician could pick up the book and relate to almost everything in the book, you know, just without much thought. But the purpose of the book and why I wrote it would be to transcend that, to go beyond that, where someone in any walk of life, any business could read Hooks and use my time on the stage as an analogy for their, you know, time in the meeting room or whatever it may be. There is a section that's business that talks about management and relating to coworkers or managing people or how to allocate resources, things like that. But there's also stuff that involves, again, identity, dealing with yourself and how to think about yourself. There's a performance category, there's a skill category. So I do believe that these hooks can be applied daily and they can be applied to people other than musicians, most certainly.
Is there one life lesson that stands out more than another when looking through this book? And once again, we're talking about what you're doing is you're really providing, I believe, simple answers to complex questions. But is there one statement, one lesson that really you think preempts any of the others?
I do think that the hook that I read earlier as an example, which is sort of serendipitous here, but I do think that may be a foundational hook. Again, the hook is knowing that you have a choice can be more important than the choice you make. One of the talks that I'm putting together as my goal is to take the book now and put it in a place where I can go talk to people and give speeches and things like that. And one of the talks is the idea that you can do something about it, that more times than not, you do have a choice. Whatever you're facing, if it's positive, you have a choice to continue on that path and invest in that and nurture that and move forward and continue to make that grow. And if you find yourself in a place where you don't want to be, even though it may seem insurmountable or maybe you can't do anything about it, most likely you do have a choice and there is a way to make it better. And that's why I say, again, knowing that you have a choice can be more important than the choice you make, because oftentimes we feel that we can't do something about it, whatever that may be, whether that's within a relationship or within our career or within our families, or, you name it. But I've always really taken the attitude that if, especially when I find myself in a position where I don't really like where I am at the moment, or I don't like how I'm responding, or I don't like how I'm performing. I mean, this happened this weekend. I had a show, wasn't as satisfied as I want to be with it. And right after the show, I was a little discouraged. But then the next day, man, I was in my studio putting together processes on how I can do something about it, because I know and I believe that I have a choice in the direction of my life.
Do you sometimes feel that as creative people, and, obviously we're focusing on musicians here, that sometimes we need to learn to get out of our own way?
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily easy.
But more and more in our today's world, we're with social media being ever present. We're always critiquing everything, right? We're critiquing what other people are doing. We're critiquing ourselves with what we're doing. And so that now is playing in our mind all the time, when really getting out of our own way, in my opinion, what I'm hearing is that we should train our bodies, and especially in performance cases, train our bodies to do what we want it to do, and then step aside and don't be critical in the moment, right? And that can be true on a macro level of a career relationship, knowing the way that we should act and how we should relate to others, and how we should pursue, make a plan for our businesses, and then just kind of get out of the way and give them an opportunity to grow. So absolutely, yeah.
Do you see in the process of all that, when you talk about putting a business plan together, is creating some form of a mission statement, or at least a core group of words, so what that business plan is going to be? I
don't necessarily come from it from a mission statement standpoint, but there is a hook that I want to read to you on hook 73. So you asked about like a mission statement.
Yeah,
I write about this in the book. I say the product you invest your time in and sell is the product you are. Is the product you are who you want to be, right? I came about that because, look, this conversation's coming together. We talk about the social media. So how many people are there? And I was one of them. You're scrolling through social media and you see your friends and your peers and what they're accomplishing, because that's what we do. We put our accomplishments for all the world to see on social media. And so, for example, I'd see some of my friends and they were making some inroads and some progress with their original music. And then I'd say, well, I would think to myself, I'm happy for them, way to go. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why am I not getting anywhere with the songs that I wrote? What's going on? Why can't I do that? And then I would take a minute and think, well, Matt, because you haven't tried. You haven't invested in that. You haven't put any effort lately into promoting and selling your original music. So stop thinking that all of a sudden you're going to reap these rewards when you're not investing in it. And so rather than a mission statement of this is what I'm going to do, I come at it that way of like, look, where you put your time and your energy is where you're going to see the return. And, I face that daily now because I have the book. I'm working on my speeches and my talks and my seminars. But I also am working on just the day-to-day performances. I'm a piano player, I'm a singer, I'm a musician by trade. And so to get out there and play in the restaurants and the clubs and the venues, the private events, I'm running that side of the business. And so every day I'd have to take stock of where I'm investing my time so that I can expect that return. Does that answer the question?
We've had this conversation on other episodes too, and that is you need to start marketing yourself. You need to focus on yourself so you know who you are. Your music is out there and it can stand on its own, but ultimately you're selling yourself. If the fans get interested in you, they're naturally going to migrate towards the creative process, the material that you're putting out there.
Yeah, I think that I just recently talked to a friend of mine who also is a musician, and we were just talking about that if you really believe in your product, then you're going to start to be motivated more and more to sell it, and you're going to be joyful when presenting it. And that's such a interesting way to come about it, because we think that, well, I'm a songwriter, I write this song, of course I'm going to believe in it, of course I'm going to be joyful about it. Well, are you? right? Do you really believe in it, or do you want to? I remember I pitched a song once to a guy, and at the end of the conversation, he said, "Well, Matt, actually, it was a gospel song that I wrote, and I don't always write gospel music. It was a gospel song, and because it didn't, more of my material most of my material is just pop, rock, or whatever it may be, but not gospel." He said, "Matt, maybe you're just excited about this song because it's gospel and you haven't written many of them. And that doesn't make it a good one. That just makes it unique to your catalog, right?" And so I tell that story to say, do some quality control before you start selling something. And if you've written a song or you have a show together and you want us to get excited about it simply because you just put it together, well, that may not be enough, right? But if you're really excited about it, if you really believe in it, if you're joyful about it, if you really think this is it, well, then I probably will too.
And don't you think that how you present something on the stage, I mean, if you just get up there and sing into the microphone in front of an audience and don't really emote any enthusiasm, as you've used the word joy, that the audience, they're going to pick up on that, almost that negative factor too. If they're not seeing that you're not having fun, ultimately they're not going to have fun. So it really transcends to the audience.
Right. And I would add on to that word, or maybe expand on it and say, maybe just to cover all the emotions, have some emotion behind it. It may not be having fun, right? I mean, I don't want to, maybe, yeah, let's have fun. But if the song necessarily isn't, the emotion of the song isn't fun, but if you believe in it, right? If you're playing the role that the character in the song, and if you're playing that role, and if it's a sad song, you don't have to be sad, but you can be emotional about it. You can be in tune with the song. One of the hooks that I write is look good, sound good, be good. That's what I've learned about performing. Look good, sound good, be good. Look good means look the part. Whatever you want it to look like that, and be purposeful about it. And also your stage, everything. Make sure, your stage is clean or it's put together the way you want to. Look good, sound good is simply, I know that early in my career, I never really did think about just having my sound be appealing to someone, right? I was just up there giving it all I got. And I didn't really pay attention. Well, is this appealing? Meaning, am I in the right key? Am I singing in the right key for my voice? Is my voice appealing to the listener right now? Is the volume for the room appealing? I mean, all these things. Sound good, and then be good is the idea to know your instrument, know your songs, know your product, do your best, be rehearsed. And so from all that, again, builds confidence. If you have all those, if you look good, sound good, be good, you're going to be confident. And from that confidence, then you can rest into the role of the song or the speech or whatever it may be. And then now it's all coming together. It's a dedicated and direct product for the audience to take in.
I couldn't agree more. With us on the show today, Matt Wilson, who is the author of Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey there, my name is Dr. Garrett Hope. I am a composer, coach, podcaster, and speaker. I've been focused on building my music business since 2014 and helping others build theirs since 2015. I want to tell you about the second annual Ultimate Music Business Summit we are organizing. It'll take place early January of 2022. There will be dozens of presentations with highly actionable content. All of it available to you so you can start your business, grow your business, and ultimately make more money. Because here's the deal. Unless you earn all of your income from an employer, you are a self-employed small business owner. And if you want to do more than survive, if you want to grow your audience, or if you want to impact more people, you have to think and act like a business owner. And that means this summit is for you. This summit will give you real-world, not theoretical, strategies you can implement immediately. You don't need to be stuck with fear or living in your failures. I promise you, with all the teachers lined up, you will get something you've never thought of before. Even though building a business is hard, no one is promising it's easy. It is possible. You just need the right tools and strategies. Tickets for this virtual event will go on sale soon. To be the first in line and to get more information about the summit, presenters, and more, go to musicsummit.biz. That's musicsummit.biz and add your email to the list.
You're listening to the business side of music.
On the show with us today, Matt Wilson, who is the author of Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. I actually found your book on Amazon.com and read a couple of the reviews that some people that had purchased the book commenting about how this has really helped them and changed them. Let's go into that for just a moment, if you don't mind. I mentioned Amazon.com. Is that the best place to find the book? Do you have a website?
MattWilsonBand.com is an all-encompassing landing spot for the book, my music, my performance dates. I also have a podcast. There's everything that I'm doing in MattWilsonBand.com, but certainly Amazon.com is a good place. Through the holiday season, the book is on sale from where it was. So Amazon.com might be a really good place to go get it right now. It's also iBooks. You can get the ebook, if you will, on iBooks, and some other places too. But I've been doing so many things, as I talked about. I'm unsure exactly where it all is available now. I should know, but I recently just signed up with a distributor. So I know it's like on Barnes & Noble too and other places. So Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. If you type that in, you're going to find it, probably where you want to buy it too.
Absolutely. And once again, it is basically has 80 helpful tips on really working on furthering your career and your life too. It's not all professional, it's also personal.
Absolutely. And there's 80 of them, and I do hope that they're helpful. That's the aim. I know they've been helpful to me.
As I said in the beginning of the show, these are things that came to you from your personal life experiences. So you're hoping that you're able to pass it on to others.
Yes, I was in an interview recently, and the host asked, "Well, Matt, this this is kind of a self-help book, and obviously there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these out there. So why did you feel like that you needed to add on to the discussion?" And I simply said, "Well, because this is my story. I've lived this. Everything in the book I've lived, and this is what I've learned. Some of it is pretty simple, like don't be funny when you're having a business conversation. And some of it is more challenging. Again, like I said, about how do you stay focused and controlled in the moment when the lights are really bright and you're feeling that pressure."
Well, and I also want to interject that, yes, there's a plethora of self-help books out there, but you really can never stop learning enough, especially if you're going to work in this industry.
Man, I tell you what, the book is a testament to that. That's very insightful, Bob, because if the book and its form, and even that 8 years ago where the seminar was and what I was talking about then, man, it's grown and developed and changed over the years, and it's far better than it was then. I'm far more insightful, more wisdom, more knowledge I can add onto that. And I promise that if I stay on this path, then I'm going to say the same thing in 4 or 5 years from now, if not next month. There are things that I've learned this weekend that are now going into the talk, into the seminar. I told you I did the practice seminar last week about performance. Literally something happened this weekend that is now in the talk forever. So yes, I'm waiting. I'm listening. I'm hoping that for more things to come into my mind that I can learn from. So you're right.
Let's talk about the seminar before we sign off here. Is that something that's going to be available to our listeners to be able to sign up and get involved with?
Yes, I'm working on right now a way how I want to offer that. There's different ways to go about it. I can have it on video and make it available on my website. I'm considering that. And then obviously making myself available for booking. And I'm very excited about the opportunities there. It's a new market for me. It's a new challenge. And what I learned is when I wrote the book, I'm like, I'm just going to put out a book. And I didn't even think about it. But the book universe is its own. I mean, there's so many things to know about the book industry and how to release a book and how to promote it and how to talk about it and all these things. And I'm learning that the speaking world in the seminar world is the same thing. And so I'm up for a challenge. But as I said, I know that I can do something about it. And I'm on that path.
Let's get your website one more time before we say goodbye here.
Matt Wilson, mattwilsonband.com, mattwilsonband.com, mattwilsonband.com.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Bob.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.